We are live. Donald Trump is the dumbest son of a bitch to ever sit in the White House. Let's dig right into it. Good morning. Good morning. I'm about to say something that's going to just blow your hat off. I am going to tell you to go listen to a Republican. That's right. Me, dyed in the wool, founder of the Ride or Die Democrats, is going to actually put into the description, if you're on YouTube, in the description, there is a link to another YouTube video from a Republican in the House by the name of David Schweikart. David Schweikart is a representative from Arizona. And he is, while we disagree on causes, while we disagree on policy on a great deal of things, the numbers he gives in this speech are spot on. We are facing a debt bomb. We did not have time for a Donald Trump presidency. We didn't. And I know a lot of people will be, I don't know, taken aback a little bit. You know, what's this? A Democrat talking about debt? Hell yeah. Democrats have always been serious about debt. It's how we approach it that is always different from Republican MAGA trash. Republicans never have found a gimme for their Johnny Got Rocks founders that they supporters, the folks that write checks to them that they've never been able to cuddle up to. Doesn't matter what the long-term ramifications are. Doesn't matter what it does to the country. Doesn't matter what it does to your Social Security, to your Medicare. As long as Johnny Got Rocks gets his, and Republicans still keep getting their checks in, they don't give a damn. Minus a handful, just a couple Republicans actually sincerely believe in fiscal responsibility. And this is David Schweikart right here. Like I said, 99% of stuff I don't agree with him on. I don't. But his numbers here are actually pretty good. And I can't play this for you because it is another YouTube video, and it's C-SPAN licensed it, or pardon me, Forbes licensed it from C-SPAN and then put it on their YouTube page. If I play it, they'll take this video down. So I can't play the video for you. This is a still shot of the video. There's a link for it in the description. But what David Schweikart talks about here is very real. It is very real. The wheels are coming off. They are. Folks, we got until 2033 on Social Security. 2033. That's it. And it is bankrupt, which means cuts are coming. There are two ways that you can deal with the Social Security shortfalls, and that is raise FICA taxes or cuts. So, yeah, cuts are coming. They are. Republicans will not make a deal that doesn't involve cutting Social Security for somebody. And the fact that it goes bankrupt in 2033 means that they're going to do this sooner rather than later. And just to give you an idea what we're looking at, why this is a big deal. Why it is literally a gun to the heads of Republicans that don't want to deal with this. Why they have no choice whatsoever. Our debt, the way it's floated, is we sell bonds. We sell bonds. You know, people say, "Oh, well, they just print money." And this, anybody that tells you, "Oh, they just print money to pay for things," has no clue how the government works. No clue. The government wants to spend money. It's got two ways of doing it. It takes in taxes or fees. Same thing. Like Donnie Dumbass's new tariff, 25% tariff on aluminum across the board, on aluminum and steel across the board, which is going to drive inflation up even farther. And this just happened. Already, inflation is spiking. But now we've got a new tariff on top of that because Donnie Dumbass is in the White House. We did not have time for this. Let me explain. You got a choice. You either take in taxes or you float bonds. You sell debt. You take on debt. Right now, for every dollar that we take in taxes, we spend about $1.36. And we're at $36 trillion in debt as of this morning. 36.2, I believe, as of this morning. Trillion dollar. That's a lot of freaking zeros, folks. Now, with Donnie Dumbass's tax proposals, the maturation of debt, and I'll talk about that in just a second, and all the spending he wants to do, they're going to double that. In 10 years, we're looking at $70 to $75 trillion in debt. That is literally the gun at Republicans' head. And here's why. Nobody wants to buy that much debt. There isn't an appetite for it in the bond markets. See, we're not the only people out there selling bonds. We aren't. There are other bonds. There are actually 13 other countries whose bonds right now are more attractive than ours. There are other countries that have better credit ratings than the United States. I know that'll be a shock to a lot of people. But yeah, Australia, Canada, Denmark, Germany, Luxembourg, Netherlands, Norway, Singapore, Switzerland, all of them have better credit ratings than the United States right now, which means they can sell bonds cheaper. Now, I was talking about maturation of debt. Okay. I want to caution you when you watch this video. This guy's a Republican. Okay. What he's talking about and the numbers, the crisis that we're going into, real, 100% real. A couple of things that he doesn't do is he doesn't take responsibility, and he tries to blame Obama. Not kidding. He blames Trump some, but he tries to blame Obama. And the way he tries to blame Obama is he says, well, President Obama floated debt in short-term debt because it was cheaper. The bond rates were lower. I mean, the interest rates on the bonds were lower for shorter-term bonds. Well, those are over the next year or two are maturing, which means they're going to roll over to higher interest rate long-term debt. It's just going to get more expensive, which is going to add over the next 10 years about $2 trillion more to our debt. Just uncontrollable maturation of our debt. It's just going to add $2 trillion more to our debt. It just did. And like I said, Schweikart does a really good job of pointing things like that out. What he doesn't ever accept responsibility for is how we got here. It was their idiotic tax policy that got us here. Nobody likes taxes. Nobody likes taxes. But you've got to. It's debt or taxes. It's the only way you pay the bills. And Republicans are really good about talking about, oh, well, we're just going to, government's too big. We're spending too much money. But as you see Schweikart talk about this, he actually talks about defense spending as though like it's some sort of sacred cow and wouldn't make a big difference, which is a lie. It's a flat out lie. Your four biggest expenditures right now in the federal government are Social Security, Medicaid, Medicare, defense, and debt. That's it right there. That's the top four. Now, Schweikart's really big about talking about Social Security, man. They want to go after Social Security bad. They really do. And they're going to, folks. I've been telling you since before the election. I've been during the election, after the election, they are going after Social Security. But look, I want to not scare people. I don't. These cuts that they're going to make are not for people currently on Social Security. They're going to stay away from that third rail. They are. It will be for me. All of us that are coming into it right now. That's where the cuts will happen. So look, if you're on a fixed income, you're on Social Security, please. I'm not here to scare you. I'm not. And I'm not going to lie to you. They're 80% chance they're not going to touch your existing benefits. Okay. Really, you're going to be okay. Well, as okay as you are now. But one of the things I really love about this video, and it's about 40 minutes long, is it really lays out, one, the seriousness of the matter. It does. And two, he goes after the silliness of what's going on right now with Doge and all the, and talks about just how little impact all of these disastrous things that they're doing with USAID and retirements, and just how little impact they actually have on the problem. So let's talk about why it's a gun to the head. There isn't an appetite for this debt. So how do you get people, you're smart people, how do you get people to buy debt from you if they don't really want to? How do you make that happen? If you need to sell bonds, how do you make those bonds attractive when they're not that attractive? What's the makeup you dress up with? You folks know. Come on. This is an interactive show. I do this live for a reason. You folks know what happens. I want to hear you folks say it so that the rest of the audience that's watching this knows it isn't just me. Bingo. Thank you, Lena. Thank you. Thank you. You raise the interest rates they pay. You do. That's how you do it. If you want to sell a bond that nobody wants to buy, you got to raise the interest rates on them, which adds more to our debt, which drives interest rates up, period. So what we're looking at, and again, we talked about this a long time ago. We did. When you folks are out there that grew up through the 80s and the 90s, we had these conversations about the baby boomers. We did. And what the result was going to be. Everybody in government today had these conversations. Everybody. We knew that the pyramid was going to turn upside down, that we just weren't having enough kids. We weren't. We didn't. We worked, two-income households. We had less and less kids. Just not enough people coming up in the system paying in to support the people in it. So how do you keep a system like that running? You take on debt. You take on debt. That's how you do it. And that's what we did. And they knew this was coming. They knew this was coming. We talked about this when we were kids. We did. We talked about this. We're an aging population. So what caused us to get here? Well, instead of addressing that and realizing, well, you know what? Remember Al Gore and his lockbox? Remember Al Gore in the 2000 election, what he ran on? He ran on what he called his lockbox. He was going to force the United States government to keep its hands off of the Social Security Trust Fund, which they were just counting as tax revenue for the general federal taxes. And he was going to force them to clean up their fiscal house. And Republicans were like, you're crazy. You're crazy. Spend it. We'll be fine. We'll be fine. Even though at the same time they're telling you we've got to cut every program under the sun because the government's going to bankrupt and we can't afford this. No. We'll just keep dipping into Social Security and taking that money. But they kept giving tax cuts to Johnny Got Rocks. Anybody ever heard the expression? I was shocked. My grandson had never heard this expression. Can't squeeze blood from a turnip. Don't know what that means, right? Can't squeeze blood from a turnip. Means if it ain't there, it ain't there, man. You can't get it. Well, Republican keeps talking about and actually raising taxes on poor folks. Well, if you ever read a history book, you will understand anytime any great, well, I don't care what you want to call it, if you want to call it an empire or whatever the hell you want to call us. Thanks for the support, Vince. I appreciate you, man. If you try to fund it off the back of poor folks, it collapses. You know, the Egyptians did. They promptly collapsed. They tried to tax cooking oil at one point. They would send people into your house. Way back in the day of the pharaohs, the pharaoh would send people into your house. They would measure how much cooking oil you had, and they would tax you on that. Anytime you try to run a government off of poor people, it collapses. That is a hard and fast rule of history. Rich folks always pay for government. They do. Go back to the Roman Empire. Wanted to go to war with somebody, they didn't have, they didn't do what we did. Most republics don't have the standing armies we do. We don't. You raise an army if a fight comes. That's the way it used to work. Go back to the Roman Empire. If they wanted to raise an empire or build aqueducts or whatever they did, they went to rich folks. They went to rich folks and said, pay for this. And that's the way it worked. Well, Republicans, they got bought off. Rich folks said, we don't want to pay for this shit. We're tired of it. We don't want to pay for it. And it paid off for Republicans, rich donors. We're going to have a trillionaire soon. In a few years, we're not going to just have billionaires. We're going to actually have a trillionaire or two. But yeah, Republicans knew this was coming. They implemented tax policies that didn't take in taxes from the only people that can pay them, the wealthy. And anytime they do pass a tax law, they're like, everybody's got to pay their share. We got to have a flat tax so everybody pays. You know, remember hearing the flat tax? Wasn't it Forbes that ran on the flat tax? Someone called CPS over Musk wearing that poor kid around. I know, right? Oh my God. People say that kid's Secret Service code name is Human Shield. But that's what Republicans did. They just didn't raise it. Well, the party's over, folks. That's why I want you to go back and watch old Schweikart. I do. He does a good job of pointing this out, that the party's over. The numbers aren't there anymore. Rich, think we need to court immigrants to work and get citizenship here to pay for Social Security. I love you people so goddamn much. I really do. I really do. Because that's the next thing we got to talk about. What was the other thing we could have done besides tax rich people? To right the pyramids? Anybody? Bueller? If you aren't having enough babies, come on, I'm talking to you. This is a live interactive show. We're round tabling this thing all the frickin' way to the end. Besides raise taxes on rich folks, if you got an inverted period and you need pyramid and you need people to pay for it, and you're not having enough babies, what's the one damn thing you can do? Bingo. But let me explain the absolute crap hole that the Republicans have pushed us into. Jeanette Dahl, our government here in Denmark has announced a war tax, and not so long ago they gave tax breaks. How stupid are you allowed to be? I'm telling you, Jeanette, I'm telling you, these conservatives are con artists. That math ain't never mathed. I'm going to give Schweikart some credit here on this. In his video, he talks about incentive programs to create, because this is what the whole abortion thing is about, folks. What do you think made these churches that never had a problem with an abortion up into the 60s and the 70s suddenly switch in the 80s? They did the math on the baby boomers, folks. In a couple years, Schweikart points this out. I'm going to keep giving him credit for the things he gets right, because I'm about to wrap his knuckles on everything he gets wrong. We're about to reach a point where we literally have more people die in a year than we have born. Yeah, that's really coming. We're here. This next 10-year period, this is when this is all happening. It's home, baby. We're done. All that shit we warned you about is done. Now, we could have had immigration. We could have. But Schweikart cusses immigration in this. It just decimated the poor. He says in his video, which is bullshit. We didn't have enough people. We needed more people. And yes, the way immigration works, you can run an immigration system where you can say, well, only people with degrees and advanced education can immigrate. Cool. You know what that gets you? No immigrants. I mean, it just does. Can you remind me who stole the money from Social Security years ago and how much is needed to make Social Security solvent? Sorry for the postal. No, that's fine, Suze. I get you. Thank you for the support, by the way. The way immigration would have saved us is if we had healthy immigration. I've said this forever. They're like, Paul, you should run for governor. Paul, you should run for president. Paul, you should run for this. You should run for that. I say, okay, fine. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go down to that fucking border and I'm going to rip down every piece of steel that they put up on that fence. And then I'm going to recycle it and build bus stations and I'm going to take these immigrants coming in and I'm going to bus them into every city I can find. And I could hear Republican heads and conservative heads exploding. We can't afford that. Well, we can't afford it now. We could then. And what would that have given us? What would that have given us? Generations going through our educational system and adding themselves to our middle class and increasing our tax base. See, none of this is an overnight fix, folks. None of what we have to do are acceptable overnight fixes. Rick Appling, if it wasn't for immigrants, the pyramid would have been inverted a long time ago. Who's going to wipe your bottom when you're old? Yeah, no kidding, brother. No kidding. This isn't hard. It's not hard to figure out. It was just bigotry. It was just bigotry is all it was. It's what they had to sell. It's what they've been selling since, hell, forever. Been a foundational corner of the Republican Party is the bigotry. But it could have saved us. But Schweikart does a good job of pointing out all of the incentive programs that they have to increase birth rates never work. They never work. You'll get like a small spike, and then it always settles back down. Josh, thanks for the right on, brother. If they wanted people to have kids, they should have created. That's again exactly where I'm going with this. They should have created a society conducive to having kids. Let dreamers become. So he attacks the dreamers in this and talks about how expensive they are and how they're going to add billions to the debt. But then he also points out, much to his credit, that actually the cost of that is a drop in the bucket compared to what needs to happen. So here's the thing. My fix, bring in more immigrants. And folks, you can't. It's not going to be, there's a reason so many people in the tech industry come out of India. There's a reason for that. There are not white Europe. Ask our European audience. They're facing the same aging population that we are. There are not a bunch of well-educated white European immigrants that want to move to the United States of America. They have choices. When you are, and I don't care where you're from. I don't care if you're from China. I don't care if you're from Indonesia. I don't care where you're. When you're educated and you have skills and you're thinking about immigrating, you have choices where you can go. We've talked about it in the show before. There, United Arab Emirates, and there are countries all over this world that have programs where they're offering tax incentives, mortgage assistance, flat out paying people from the government, paying people directly to get people to come move, and they can't get enough. They just can't. They just can't. It's just not there. It's not going to happen. What should have happened is 40 years ago, we should have had an immigration system that brought in more young people. I mean, I don't know. This isn't hard for me. I guess it's because I don't have a problem with anybody. I don't. You could drop me into Swaziland. By the end of the day, I would have a couple sentences to where I could get through my day. By the end of the week, I would be conversative enough that I could do business. By the end of the month, I would be able to sit around and play dominoes and drink African beer with people. It's just how immersion works, folks. But here in the United States, everybody's like, you want me to learn another language? You want me to learn another language? It's no big deal. It's not a big deal. It comes naturally when you just hang around with people. It does. And our European audience, where, you know, it's hilarious to me. Um, our European audience, the distance you have, like from here to your next state, is the distance they have from here to another language. Most people in Europe speak multiple languages, and it's not a big deal. But here in the United States, we have this thing, man, that we speak English here, man. I mean, it drives this anti-immigration nuttiness, the stupidity. Because what we needed to do was we needed decades of young people coming here, unskilled. And yes, we were going to have to invest in them to get them stabilized. But I know a DACA recipient that's taking care of old folks in an old folks home. Got her degree. She's a nurse. Sure, they start out poor. They don't stay that way. She is an engine of the economy. But old Schweikart's talking about, hell, we bring people here to our great university system. Our university system ain't that great. It's not. There are better in the world. There are. We have a lot of work to do. To our great university systems, and then we ship them back home to compete with us. That's true. That is true. That really happens because people with skills have choices. And we have gun violence. We have high taxes. By the time you figure in all the fees and the different taxes that we pay, American taxes aren't any cheaper. So it's not attractive financially to live here. There are huge swaths of the United States that are filled with poor people. If you want those people, if you want to compete for people, you've got to be attractive, man. I don't know, have a healthcare system. I mean, a real healthcare system like they have. I mean, ask we have people right here from Denmark, Norway, Sweden. I just got an email from an old boy from London that sits very quietly. He doesn't comment or anything. He finally sent me an email the other day, but he's sitting there watching. Chime in. They have healthcare. Canada has a healthcare system. Do you think Canada wants to be the 51st state? No. Those are the things that we needed to do to fix these problems decades ago. So now we're going to have to fix them, and we're going to drive interest rates up doing it. You remember during Reagan what interest rates were? I still talk about this. My sister bought a house during the 80s under Reagan and paid like 16%. Scotland in the house. That's right. 16% interest on a mortgage. We're going back, folks. We are. Thank you, Republicans. We're going back there. We are. And it's just math. That's why I'm telling you, in the description, there is a link to Schweikart's video. Now, again, he blames Obama. He says, Obama, he used that inexpensive short-term debt, and that's rolling over. That's going to add to our debt. Well, of course he did. That's what you do. If you're going to take on debt, I mean, your house, they always want to talk about kitchen table. If you want to take on debt at your house, and you got two choices, you could take on less expensive short-term debt and then later roll it on to more expensive debt, or you could take the full ride in the more expensive debt. Which one do you do? Of course, you go with the less expensive, the lower interest rates. Of course you do. But old Schweikart, because he's a Republican, can't be honest about it. But I tell you what he was honest about, and I really liked was, I've been saying this, and a lot of people don't really get it. He was talking about, okay, so you got rid of foreign aid. And he says, we're not even going to talk about how much this cost us in the world, because foreign aid, you know, is one of the major ways we maintain our presence. There's a reason the world does business in dollars. There's a reason the world does business on, trade stock on the New York Stock Exchange. There's a reason that our financial institutions, our old financial institutions, are as strong as they are. It's because, in part, due to our foreign aid policies. But you got rid of that. But before we even count that into the equation, just talk about, okay, you got rid of foreign aid. I told you it's a $50 billion budget. $50 billion. What did you save? Schweikart does a great job of pointing out we borrow $6 billion a day. Let me say that again. We borrow $6 billion a day. Now do the math on that. They got rid of U.S. aid forever. The cost was $50 billion. What did you buy yourself? A week? And what did you do with that week? You starved kids. We talked about how it affects the intelligence community, all the damage that you did to get rid of U.S. aid, and you didn't even come close to fixing our financial ship. He was talking about how, one of the popular things that Republicans like to talk about is we don't need to be subsidizing these sports arenas. And he figured out, and he's got a chart there. How long do you think, if you're borrowing $6 billion a day, how much do you think those subsidies represent in time? I'll just tell you, it was 7 seconds. But that's a big deal. It's always the diversion. Now, let me give you a warning here, folks. I've been trying to tell you. Look, they planned this out. And it was planned by people that aren't as stupid as Donald Trump. They went with the executive orders so that it didn't affect their control in Congress and their people in Congress. Nobody had to make any unsavory votes. No Republican in Congress had to vote to starve a kid. But they're going to lose because what Donald Trump is doing is illegal. It is. And the judiciary has a choice. They can either just forfeit all their power, or because they don't have the luxury that the Republicans in Congress do. See, the legislature's not involved in any of this. Now, they would be if Democrats ran the legislature. They would be suing immediately the Trump administration, and they would be impeaching Donald Trump for breaking the law, which is what he's doing. But these are Republicans in charge of the legislature, so the legislature is pretty much well sidelined in all this. But Donald Trump is already losing these cases. He's already losing these cases. But Schweikart does a really good job of pointing out that that even though you're doing these things like cutting U.S. aid, you're not getting yourself very far as actually fixing the problem. And he points out And he does a really good job, I have to say, of pointing out that not only are you not getting very far, but you're doing this. We're looking at $500 million in food aid that's going to rot because there's no way, no system left to distribute it. And by the time it gets through the courts, which is where I was going with this, it's going to take time. And a lot of the damage will already be done. Unfixable. Even when they put the funding back, the damage will already be done. But here's the kicker. And I want to warn you this. I try to, bring you inside the political baseball so that you could see, so you're not caught flat-footed, so that you could talk to your MAGA moron friends and you can tell them, hey, look, this is what they're going to whisper in your ear so that when they do it, it's bullshit. When they get U.S. aid reestablished, because they will, because it was criminal the way they did it. If you want to hear somebody talk about it eloquently, Elizabeth Warren talks about it. It's just a crime. The president does not have the authority under the Constitution to undo what Congress does. It's a law. So when it gets put back, what are the Republicans going to say about the debt explosion that is about to happen? That Trump's own tax policies, their own tax policies, and their own immigration policies caused. What are the Republicans going to say? They're going to do exactly what Schweikart does in this video, which is completely ignore their culpability. And they're going to say, well, the Democrats did it. We tried. Look, we tried to get rid of U.S. and they forced it back in. Them damn Democrats, they just like to tax and spend. When nothing they're doing is actually saving any real substantial money. None of it is fixing this. It's just hurting people for no reason. Let's do this. Let's run through the math of what I'm talking about real quick. Stick with me. It's not going to be boring, I promise you. Look, we'll just they had 40,000 employees take Trump's buyback. Right? You don't replace those people. Let's say they make $100,000 a year. $100,000 a year. Average salary. Bingo. There you go. $4 billion. We're borrowing $6 billion a day. And you've got Fox News saying, look at how much money Donald Trump is saving us. He's shrinking that government. But none of it is a legitimate, serious fix. But it's a diversion. And when it's over and when the fight's done and everything's put back and the judiciary says, tells the president that, sorry, you can't do this. U.S. aid still exists. Too bad, so sad for you. The message is going to be, oh, we tried, but them damn Democrats bankrupted us. When it's been decades upon decades upon decades of unsustainable tax policy, ripping off your Social Security, fighting immigration. We Democrats have been trying to fix our immigration system for decades, but the bigotry, they want to sell the bigotry. They just did it. They just won an election selling bigotry, which is absolutely the source of our problem. But they know, man, they understand how politics works. They understand how people work. Your MAGA moron relatives are going to be telling you, you Democrats bankrupted us. That's all you ever wanted to do was just spend that money. And folks, it's already it's already coming home to roost. I mean, and people know it. People in our strata know it. Not the stupids, because the stupids will never read an article about Trump's economic plan exploding the national debt from 36 folks talking about going from $36 trillion to 70 to 75 trillion dollars in the next 10 years. It took almost 250 years to get to the first 36, and they're going to double it in less than 10 years. We did not have time for the stupidity. We did not have time for stuff like this. Donald Trump's out there. They need to lower them interest rates back to where they were in my first administration back when, and remember me screaming about it? If you've been hanging around with me forever, during the first Trump administration, I was screaming they can't keep interest rates this low. It's artificial. It's the only thing carrying the economy. They have to do other things to help the economy. The interest rates, you cannot have, they were talking about going negative on interest rates, actually paying people to borrow money. And this moron, the stupidest president we have ever had in the United States of America, is screaming that we need to get back to that. We need to get back to that. Gregory Brown, they prey upon a population raised to believe that two wrongs don't make a right. There's no critical thinking skills. These people don't have information. Meanwhile, the smart kids in the room, I call him a kid, he's older than dirt, Jerome Powell, is very clear-eyed about this. No, we're not going to cut interest rates. Folks, today, the interest rate today is 4.33%. And they're not going to cut that. They're not. They're not. They're not, because inflation. This isn't hard. If inflation is happening, one of the only things that thank you for the support. I really appreciate you. One of the only things that you have in your toolbox is to raise interest rates to stifle economic activity, which brings inflation down. You can want to charge $100,000 a car, but if you can't sell them, eventually you got to cut those prices. And that it's painful, because it's like a chain reaction car wreck instead of everything nicely slowing down. But yeah, it's insanity with no grown-ups in the room. With a president that is slapping tariffs on people and no one knows why. And this is happening, folks. This is happening. 2033, Social Security is broke. And again, much kudos to Schweikart. He says, look, by law, statutorily, the day after, in 2033, you double elderly poverty. Double it in one day. So yeah, it's a gun to their head. They've got to do something about it. But their financial options, I'm hoping I'm making it clear, their financial options are now deeply, deeply limited, and we cannot let them off the hook for the pain that they are going to cause. They're going to take my Social Security And they're going to make me wait 5 years longer to get it. They are. They really are, folks. There are no good options. Medicaid, Medicare, they're going to go after them with a freaking chainsaw. They cannot be allowed off the hook. We have to be screaming now. You did this. You wanted to cut taxes on Johnny Got Rocks. The only people that were around that could have actually paid for this, you said they didn't have to pay for it. And we didn't get jack shit out of it. Our wages did not increase. In fact, you've wrecked the economy a couple times. We could have had immigration to fix this, where we grew our population, thus increasing our base. But again, that takes time. That's not an overnight fix, as I've explained. You're not going to get those, you know, if someone has skills, can attain a job that pays really well, they get to choose where they live. They don't have to come here. You have to do the things to make it attractive. So immigration is going to be a long-term fix. You're talking about 10 to 20 years before you start getting the benefits for it if you start today. And we're not starting today because we're going to waste time on the Trump administration and Elon Musk and his idiocy, his ketamine-fueled fanaticism. Big Hook, thanks for the support. Who could have guessed that bigoted racists without morals would lie about math? Taxes, who should pay? The con is on. Taxes for me, but not for thee. Yep. Absolutely. And these are the kind of just idiotic things that people are doing. Just so you know. This is the kind of distractive stuff that they're keeping the stupids from focusing on and accepting and understanding these basic things that Republicans have to go, because we're at a fork in the road, folks. We are. We're at a thanks, Amy Emanuel. I appreciate it. Yes. Remove the cap on payroll taxes so that Johnny Got Rocks has to pay payroll taxes on all his income. Not just the first 160 or something like that. I can't remember where the cap is off the top of my head. Absolutely. There are things that we're going to have to do. But hey, you know, do we want people involved? Do we want people to know? Hell no, we don't. We want people to talk about Kennedy. We're going to have a task force about the Kennedy assassination. Yeah, that's really going on, folks. 1963, and you know, but no, we're going to talk about that. That's really important. We're going to have a task force on the Kennedy assassination, and of course, they've got this idiot. And I've shown you the Instagram videos of her showing her butt off and all that other. That's her, man. That's her. Dumb as a box of rocks. And she says this. See if you can catch what's wrong with it.
Ones in March, that be department heads, former employees of various agencies.
Would you like to jump in?
Yeah, I was going to say, based on what we're actually looking to do with the JFK investigation, I'm looking to actually bring in some of the attending physicians at the initial assassination, and then also people that had been on the various commissions looking into, like the Warren Commission, looking into the initial assassinations. There's
Okay, let me play it one more time. Just one more time. See if you can catch what's wrong with what she says here.
The first ones in March, that be department heads, former employees of various agencies.
Would you like to jump in?
Yeah, I was going to say, based on what we're actually looking to do with the JFK investigation, I'm looking to actually bring in some of the attending physicians at the initial assassination, and then also people that had been on the various commissions looking into, like the Warren Commission, looking into the initial assassinations. There's
at your hearings,
Did you catch it? Yeah, I see several of you did. The attending physicians for John Kennedy and the Warren Commission. Lady, they were in their 60s to 80s in the 1960s. You got that says Social Security Administration will be money in, money out. By then, about 80% not good enough. Welcome to the kakistocracy. Yeah. Amen, brother. Amen. This is who Republicans are. Pay attention. We're going to do the Kennedy assassination. You know that thing you like, that movie. We're going to talk about that. We're going to bring in people from the Warren Commission, and we're going to get to the bottom of this. Are you shitting me? Thanks for the support, Barbara. Are you shitting me? This is who they are. Lauren Boebert, Anna Paulina Luna. I mean, my God, people. I mean, really, I just, folks, I sit here and I read this stuff. And I know you think I'm kissing your ass when I talk about how much I need these shows to get through. I swear to God, you know, because I'm sitting here, I've got a show prepared for you on Friday. It's about Mavis, the AI program, Palantir's AI program. And it's scary as hell, man. It really is. It's just terrifying. And, you know, I got these morons out there. I got President Dumbass. Well, I want to lower them interest rates. You can't do that, dummy. You can't do that. It's financial. It's a financial disaster, and it gets rid of any tools that you would have in your toolbox to do anything later. But no, dummy's running the show right now. We did not have time for this. We didn't. Jeremy Breeden, at least Republicans are working hard to pass legislation to rename Greenland to red, white, and blue land. This is true, folks. If you have not followed this, there is an actual bill. I actually have it here. We were going to get to that. I love doing this show with you folks. Yeah, you can't make this shit up. And I'm not making it up because I have the actual bill here for you. There you go. There it is. Took a screenshot of it. House Resolution 1161, Red, White, and Blue Land Act of 2025. Yeah, they're enabling Donald Trump to enter into negotiations for the purchase of Greenland, and they're going to rename it Red, White, and Blue Land. Oh, my God. Folks. Yeah, your tax dollars at work. I mean, and it's not just there. It's not just that idiocy. It's not. This happened. Nancy Mace. Y'all know what the speech and debate clause is? Cliff's Notes is you can't sue a congressman for what they say on the floor of the Senate. There are no repercussions for they can get out there and say anything. You can't sue them for defamation. Nothing. They are 100% protected. Their speech is 100% protected when they're on the floor of the House. They can say damn near anything. Really. So Nancy Mace goes to the floor and she does this. And I'm not going to play the video for you. I'm going to just still pics. I can't stand her voice. Mace accuses 4 men, including her ex-fiance, of being sexual predators. South Carolina Law Enforcement Division they're gonna investigate. She got on the floor and she gives this speech. And you saw that picture right there. It had a number on it that has a hotline for victims of assault, right? Only problem is it's as made up as everything else she's saying. And actual advocates that actually do that and actually run hotlines are begging you, please don't call that number. Please don't call that number. No one answers. It's not a real number. It is Nancy Mace's answering machine. That's it. That's all it is. And what was this about? I mean, because, wasn't that long ago that old Nancy Mace was super excited about being engaged to Patrick Bryant. Wasn't that long ago? That's Patrick Bryant. That's her ex-fiance that she's now accusing of sexual assault and taking naked pictures of her without her consent and all kinds of crazy. This is the same guy that Nancy Mace went to a church meeting. She did. She went to a prayer meeting and talked about how Patrick Bryant wanted to get busy with her, but she had to put him off, because she wanted to be on time for this church meeting. And everybody was like, what? Yeah, he wanted to get freaky. He grabbed a hold of me by the waist, pulled me in real tight. And I'm like, no, Patrick, not this morning. But don't y'all worry. I'm going to take care of him here in a little bit after the meeting. She said that. She said that. And everybody was like, what? Oh, hey, folks, I want to pause for a second. I've always loved this cup. I have, because it's exactly how I feel. But I hear you. When you email me, I read your emails. I do. And a lot of you folks were like, hey, man, can't you come up with something that's not quite as, this, that, and the other. So, yeah, I heard you, and I did what you asked. I got a new one out that says I didn't vote for the felon. If you're uncomfortable with having a cup that says rapist on it, I made one just for you. I listen to you. I do what you tell me. Well, not everything you tell me, but you know what I mean. Yeah. You got Nancy Mace up there talking to me. Thank you for the support, Sheena made. And yeah, they're trying to strip women's rights away at every turn. But Nancy Mace is suddenly running like, I'm an advocate for women, and makes all these accusations that everybody is denied. And get this. This isn't coming out of South Carolina law enforcement. She ran this through the Capitol Police, who then contacted South Carolina. Why? Speech and debate clause. She can make all those accusations all damn day. But if she stands on the street corner and makes them, they can sue her ass. She's got to back up what she says. But because she did it on the floor of Congress, they can't touch her. And every one of them deny it explicitly. They're like, bring in South Carolina. Patrick Bryant there is like, bring in South Carolina. And I mean, this is how just dumb she is. This was her after they had their breakup. Y'all will probably remember this. Her walking through the halls of Congress. Folks, this isn't photoshopped. She really did this. Apparently, he's got some dirt on her or something, because she went after him from the get-go, claiming that he had profiles on dating apps that she found and that he's cheating on her. And Patrick Bryant's been like, no. No. The he said, she said is, I don't know what the hell she's talking about. But she walked through the... Obviously never having read the Scarlet Letter. Obviously, this woman never read the Scarlet Letter, or she would understand just how moronically stupid this is. And for those of you, you know what? Some people didn't read it. I understand. It wasn't required reading everywhere. If you never read the Scarlet Letter, the one that wears the A, goes back to like Puritan times. The ones that wear the A is the adulterer. God. Oh my God. I mean, all you can do is laugh. All you can do is laugh. But you want to know what this is really all about? I mean, really? This is one second. Just accidentally closed it. Let me pull this picture back up. I just accidentally closed it. There we go. Got it. This is Alan Wilson. If you listen to what she said, and I don't recommend it. It was even Lauren Boebert and Anna Paulina Luna that were sitting behind her for support. You could just tell by their faces. They were like, what? The least kept secret in Washington is Nancy Mace thinks she's going to run for governor in 2026. And her most likely primary competitor is this guy, Alan Wilson. He is the Attorney General for the state of South Carolina. And she accused him after this diatribe. The whole point of the diatribe, when she gets to the end, is she makes this political speech about how this guy just didn't do his job and didn't protect her and doesn't protect women and happens to be running against her for the next gig that she wants. Speech and debate clause, folks. Speech and debate clause. We paid for the cameras to be on, for her to sit on the floor of the House to do this. Meanwhile, we have a legitimate, serious debt crisis that there's no way around. We're tied to the tracks. And Donald Trump, everything he's doing is going to double that debt. $70 to $75 trillion in 4 years. That means interest rates spike. That means our credit rate plummets. Our credit rating plummets. It means that our government can no longer do everything that we want it to do. We don't have time for this. We don't. We have to blunt this administration, and there's only two ways to do it. And folks, for all the people that are like, well, we're never going to have elections again and this, that, and the other. Yeah, I'm not there, because every Republican out there has already started running for their next office. Nancy Mace is running for governor in 2026. Folks, in 2026, we have to decimate them, the entire legislature, Senate and House. Every state judge, every mayor's office. There's just no time for this. None. April 1st, we have special elections that could make Hakeem Jeffries Speaker of the House. And I got to love the Democrats up in New York. I do. They're talking about delaying their special election so that it doesn't require as many votes. That one vote makes a difference. It doesn't require as many votes to make Hakeem Jeffries Speaker. Yeah, I'm telling you, man. I'm telling you. We've got to do this. We've got to fight with the Democrats to get this done. We don't have time, because we're at a fork in the road. And this is what I want to leave you with, folks. We're at a fork in the road. This financial crisis, the math don't care. Doesn't care if you're Republican, doesn't care if you're Democrat. It doesn't care. This is coming. Inflation's going to keep rising. All of this shit's going to keep happening. You got two choices. I want you to go back and I want you to watch David Schweikart, because he's very clear. The Republican choice is, we're going to cut your Social Security. We're going to cut your Medicare. We're going to cut everything for you. He very much blows off the idea of cutting defense spending, which again, by the way, of all the things that you can cut, defense is the fattest hog out there that you could actually cut from without hurting people on Medicare, without hurting people on Social Security. That's the choice you have. It's not that these cuts, whether they're going to come or not, they're coming. It's where they are coming. What is the policy going forward? Democrats take the Democratic fork and you are for the people. Take the Republican path and you are going to continue getting Johnny Got Rocks off the hook and not paying for any of this. And then you are going to pay for it. It is a clear fork in the road. So we don't have time. We just don't. So what I want you to do is become a lot more militant. Anytime you see a negative comment about a Democrat or Democrats aren't doing enough or any of that, we don't have time. We don't have time. We don't have time for that nonsense. Every single election, the special election, we got to get it done. The midterms, we got to get it done. You know, and I keep hearing, I'm going to talk about this one more time. I keep hearing these morons talking about violence and revolution and we need to take them down and stuff. Folks, if Trump died tomorrow, we'd be in worse shape. J.D. Vance is worse than Donald Trump. We have to make Hakeem Jeffries Speaker of the House. I don't know about you, but I'd feel a lot better if Hakeem Jeffries was third in line to the presidency. How much of our tax dollars did Christy Noem's photo shooting crew cost so she could cosplay? Exactly. When she was out pretending to be ICE, they're pissing money away. Donald Trump spent $20 million to go get booed at the Super Bowl. Folks, there's a reason presidents don't go to things like that. Joe Biden could have went with his wife, but he didn't want that expense for Secret Service. Folks, thanks for the support, Jane. I really appreciate you. I really do appreciate you, folks. Can't do it without you. I just can't. Folks, we're at a fork in the road. So pretty please, I need you to pretty please get militant online. We don't have time. We just don't. I hope I've made that clear. I want you to go back and I want you to watch David Schweikart. His numbers are not that off. They are pretty good. He makes a very good case about what we're facing and what it's going to take and why it's so important. I'll give him that much. I disagree with his Republican bullshit that's obvious in it. But yeah, we're there, folks. We're there. 10 years, we're talking about getting to a point of no return. The end of America. And I tell you what, our enemies want that. They really do. That's why, I get people all the time that are telling, please talk about the significance of BRICS. And the BRICS currency that they're trying to establish and put forward. This is it, folks. If they can do to us what happened to the Soviet Union, they can stop the American dollar from being the general reserve currency. And our enemies have the opportunity to step in. I got to get Richard on the show. I really do. I love Richard. I really do. Matter of fact, after the show, I'll invite him to come on. Folks, that's what I've got for you today. And I really hope that you understand the seriousness of what we're facing financially. Social Security's broke in less than a decade. In 10 years, if we continue down this road, we're going to be at a point of no return with our debt. Interest rates will soar. We will be back to 15, 16, 19% interest rates for mortgages. If you think it is hard to buy a house now, wait till you have to pay credit card rates for a mortgage. Wait until credit card rates are so high that people can't afford to use credit to keep our economy flowing. We're headed that we're there. That nightmare scenario they told you about the boomers and then Gen X retiring, we're there. We're there. The question is, what do we do going forward? Nothing. And again, I don't try to unnecessarily scare you, and I definitely don't like to sell you pie in the sky bullshit. Neither fork in the road looks beautiful because all of these fixes needed to be done decades ago. So yeah, our children, they're not going to have what we had. Republicans took it from them. But if you want your grandchildren to have a shot, you got to make the right choice here, folks. You got to make the right choice here. Well, folks, I appreciate all the support. Thank you. Last minute, Mike, I appreciate you all the time. I appreciate you. Daniel Lynch, I haven't heard a word from Kamala Harris. She could be voice of resistance, stay in campaign mode. That's not what they do. It's not what they do. It just isn't what we do. We are just weeks after an election. We never have a candidate undermine the existing administration. It's not what we do. So don't look for Kamala Harris to be out there leading the charge. Stop shit talking Democrats, any of them, including Kamala Harris. That's what's got to stop. We don't have time. We don't have time for you to criticize a single Democrat. We just don't. We've got to win this going forward. The messaging has to be spot on, straight. The Democrats are the way, period. Love you, folks. Enjoy some Texas cities at night.